GM. Hello, everybody. My name is Victor. These are my contact details. I work for Polygon, but today this presentation is not about any Polygon product. It's more about the concept itself of aggregation. Why is that? Today, I've seen a lot of different projects working on that, and my background is a little bit on Polkadot, where they have XCM. I also work for Chainlink, where they were doing CCAP, and I foresee a number of different topics that I would like to at least have a discussion with all of you. If you want to get the slides, that's the QR code, just in case they're useful for any of you. The whole idea is to be able to intercommunicate all the different blockchains. The reality is when we look today at the landscape, a new layer 2 is popping up every now and then. Now we have the concept of L3s. Who knows what's coming next? But the reality is me, as a user, my wallet is a mess. It's full of dust. I have a lot of, but I have some Ethereum. I have wrap Ethereum, Ethereum.e, Ethereum.p, wrap.e Ethereum, and so on and so forth. So one of the wonderful ideas of all this interconnectivity should be the ability to be able to send messages, transactions, eventually NFTs across them. So when we think what had happened on the blockchain industry until now, of course we had first the monolithic chains. Those are single layer blockchains. They have several advantages. They are very simple, they have strong security, they are very stable, but they also have some issues. When it comes into scalability, the TPS in Ethereum, for instance, was not ideal, and they were not very flexible. When you want to do something different, if you want to do something which is outside of Solidity, and you are using all Ethereum, what do you actually do? And they are very slow as well, in the way that if I want to implement something, I need to reach consensus across so many developers and maintainers. Then the modular chains came in. What if we take the basic functions of a monolithic chain and we break this down into multiple functionalities? That's amazing. We can do so many more things. We also have a lot of scalability. We can get more block space. We can reach a high number of TPS. Solana is out of this. They are doing fantastic. We are also much more flexible. I can have some L2s or some parachains, which are EVM compatible, some of them that are not EVM compatible, some of them they support WASM, any code is welcome, and they also improve the interoperability. However, they improve the interoperability within their ecosystem. If we think about Polkadot, if we think about Cosmos, they have their own solutions, but only within the space. What happens if I want to do something outside of the space? They also have some issues, like the complexity when we are understanding some of these concepts, it's much bigger. They also have security challenges, because now all the transactions are not settled down on the same place, neither they use the same consensus mechanism. And then it also has a very big impact when it comes into the coordination requirements. So basically, I like this kind of a schema where we take all the different functionalities from the monolithic chains and we break them down. Like execution can be different, settlement can be different, consensus can be different, data availability can be different. Does it mean that every modular solution is breaking down all those different layers into multiple components? No, it doesn't. But that's the beauty. So now we have monolithic, we have modular. Some examples of monolithic chains. We have Bitcoin, we have Solana. We have Ethereum in there before the 2.0 version. We have Celestia, which they were the first modular chain. It's beautiful. We can consider Starnet also as a modular chain. And today, we can also consider Ethereum as a modular chain. You have Ethereum, and then you have all these side chains and L2s on top of Ethereum. Is there anything else? Can we go like one step ahead? Is there anything else for me as a developer, for me as a user, that I can actually benefit from? The idea is to explore the next step in the blockchain evolution. So what can we do afterwards? How can we fix all these break liquidity problems and so on and so forth? That's when the aggregation or the aggregated concept is coming in. Like the idea is try to create some kind of layer, some kind of interoperability protocol when we are able to speak to each other. And again, here I'm talking about the concept. I'm not talking about the implementation. If we were developing something, I'm still talking about the class. I'm not talking about any of the objects. Okay? So when we are defining this class, what should be the advantages of this class? We should have enhanced scalability. We should be able to provide cell liquidity. If I have my funds in chain A and I want to do something in chain B, how can I actually do that without spending so much time or so much money? I should be able to benefit also from a greater flexibility, and therefore make the most efficient use of the available resources. When I was doing some research back in the day about aggregation, those are kind of the word cloud that came around aggregation. Interoperability, distributed, cross-chain, something should be a link. It should be a blockchain network, the Internet of Networks, multi-bridge. What about the latency, multi-chain, share liquidity? So the concept itself has been around for a while, but in the last 1.5, 2 years, this is really taking up. And this is one of the discussions that I like having with people. When we talk about aggregation, the idea is to be able to intercommunicate. That doesn't mean only asset. It means messages. It means pretty much anything across different components. To me, the beauty of aggregation would be the ability to communicate the modular and monolithic chains in a way that, as a developer, I can actually use. And I know that I'm missing one particular term that I hope someone will raise a hand before I go into the slide. But the idea, as you can see here, I can have an L2, which is modular. I can have an L1, might be monolithic. I have some L2s, but are modular. To me, L3s are something a little bit different, but they are very useful. And the amount of app chains that are also happening and popping up every day, it's only increasing. There are many solutions to transfer funds, to transfer messages across different L3s. But again, this is happening within the realm of L2s. And whenever I want to bridge something from this L3 to the first L1, it can be challenging. So this is one of the things that I would like for you to take away. The idea of aggregation should be a way in which we have truly interoperability. As I said before, I work for a certain company. This is not the vision of the company. This is the vision of what aggregation should be. Chain abstraction. Nobody raised a hand, but this is one of the common questions. Like, what happens with chain abstraction? The way that my research has conducted is that even within the developer community, there is a big difference between protocol developers and app developers. And we don't speak the same language. We don't have always the same problems. We don't have the same kind of issues or challenges. So this presentation is about aggregation, which means, if I go one slide back, that I'm focusing purely on the protocol level. Like, I'm very, very low level. As a app, I should be able to use all these technologies via chain abstraction or via any other solution. Someone called Across, they are also trying to do a front end for multiple backends when it comes into aggregation. Right now, they are working with superchains, and they are also working with CCIP, so they can have multiple backends. So I am leaving chain abstraction outside of this, and whenever I get into the different challenges that I have identified, I'm leaving this out of the equation. So this is what I want to spend some time with you. And I hope this is also something where you can think, and if you are participating in any project, you can help us figure out some of these challenges. Right now, I have researched a number of different projects. They are having wonderful solutions. Some of them, they are creating a network. Some of them, they are creating a layer. Some of them, they are creating a network of network. However, there is not a single solution as of today that solves all these challenges. And let me walk you through some of them. The first one, for me, is very important, assets that are fungible or not. So when we think about aggregation, there are many solutions that, out of the box, they support ERC20 and ERC1155 with no issues. ERC1155, as long as they are fungible. However, when I have an NFT, that's not so straightforward. This is also related with how do I make some standards. If I say ERC20, we are from the Ethereum world, everything is super straightforward, but then BP20, it's kind of the same, but sometimes it has its own nuances. But what if, at some point, I want to be able to have the equivalent to Bitcoin as a native token in Ethereum? Can I do that? Well, I need to create some kind of derivative in order to do for work. The metadata. an NFT in Solana is not exactly the same as an NFT in Ethereum and vice versa. So if I reach this aggregation, how can I create this dictionary in which I'm able to actually communicate these two completely different technologies? The need for native tokens. As I mentioned before, my wallet is a mess, it's full of dust. I have all of these little tokens which are good for nothing. So having native tokens is very important. How do I do that? Should it be this aggregation, whatever we want, responsible to deploy the contract anywhere where I want? Should I be, as the owner of the contract, deploying my contract in any chain I want? Then how do I scale? Should it be a third party, any kind of entity responsible to have a repository with all the different contracts? And if so, how is that governed? How is that managed? How can I scale that? I don't have the answers. Again, I'm just putting some of the questions on the table, so maybe we can all figure out what is the best solution to solve all of this. When it comes to security, how can we enhance and how can we protect all the cross-chain vulnerabilities? Mint and burn, okay, I can implement some controls there, but how can I prevent someone malicious from connecting to whatever network it is and drain all the funds from there? That's kind of a challenge as well. And again, interoperability. How can I navigate the protocol differences? It's also true that quite often we are very focused on our own protocol/ecosystem. Some people from Polygon might be familiar with Arbitrum, Optimism, but then when you go outside to something completely different, like Cosmos or Polkadot, it's like, how does it even work? The concepts are different, the terminology is also different. How can I actually scale this? Is it CK the best solution? Do I have any other alternative? How can I process as many transactions as possible? Right now, you all know that the most common bottleneck we have within Ethereum is a TPS compared to other ecosystems. And now what I'm telling is I would like to communicate Ethereum with Solana, for instance, where it's 7 TPS versus 3,500 TPS. How can I make this happen in a way that I settle all those things up? Speaking about settlement, how and where should I settle all of these transactions, all of these messages, all of this communication? And when it comes into governance, how can we find a common method where Solana people are happy to be in the same ecosystem as Ethereum or Near or you name it? How can I resolve all these conflicts? How can I prevent all the security breaches to happen, and how can I solve them? And last but not least, regulatory compliance. One of the things that I've seen as well is many companies are trying to deploy their app chains which are geo-based. I'm in Europe and I'm under MiCA. If I go to Asia, I will have my own regulation. If I go to the US, I have my very own regulation. Whenever this interoperability layer comes, how it's going to affect and how can we navigate this from the more legal/compliance point of view? This is also an area where I think we should all be working on. I would like to highlight a few projects and protocols that are working on aggregation solutions that are very interesting, and if you are not familiar with them and you want to know more, I really encourage you to start with them. Polkadot is very interesting because it has the concept of interoperability embedded since Gavin spun out from Ethereum. He was complaining, oh my goodness, I don't have sharding, I cannot really scale. So he decided to create this relay chain and then connect all the parachains on top of that. Then the need for sending messages from one parachain to another was a big deal for him. Cosmos had a similar problem, and they came up with IBC. They had the Ethereum bridge, although it's not very used, and I'm wondering what's going on. Chainlink announced CCIP in October 2021. They were one of the pioneers. They have a wonderful solution. They care about security, and they are also looking after institutions. So the solution they created, it's basically have a pre-approved set of endpoints in which you can transfer or communicate tokens between. Like I have chain A from this list, chain B from this list, and a limited number of assets which can be communicated across. When it comes into scalability, how can I manage that? And Polkadot has a similar thing with Asset Hub. Polygon is working on Aggregate layer, which is this interoperability layer, which is able to communicate